Hi, it's Kaitlyn from Really Big Plant. Thank you so much for joining me.
Really big plant.
We are doing some repottings. They're going to be like the aesthetic type of repotting, which is not always the type of repotting that I do on my channel. A lot of times they're kind of like chaotic and all over the place, but I wanted to get a couple of plants looking really nice. I was like browsing on Amazon and saw some pots I really wanted and decided that we should do a little cute repotting. I did find mainly like one really interesting pot plus some other combinations of like pot and saucer that I am hoping are gonna fit together. I have some packages that we need to open up that have the pots in them, and I don't know if they're going to be a good fit or not. So I'm hoping that things turn out looking nice. Show you a new Hoya that I got and just get a couple of plants looking a little bit spruced up and a little cuter. And then I do have a big announcement to make that I don't really know how to preface this, so I'm just gonna tell you I am pregnant. I am super pregnant, like so pregnant. I'm in my third trimester and the baby is due at the end of spring, and I've been kind of absent from my channel as I've been like nesting and getting ready, preparing my house and mind and soul to have my first child. So that is very exciting stuff that's going on in my personal life. I've got a million billion feelings and things to say about it, but I'm not going to get into it here. Really Big Plant is not about to become like a baby channel, but yeah, my baby is going to be due very, very soon, in just a couple months, and I'm so excited for it. So I figured I should finally tell you guys about it. Look at me. I don't have any clothes that fit me anymore. I'm like so pregnant. For people who are not interested in hearing about this, I take zero offense. I have timestamps in the description. I totally get it. Everyone's like at a different place in their life. I haven't really been posting so much in the past few months because I feel like since maybe like sometime in January, maybe like the past 2 months or so, I've been showing pretty obviously, and I was not ready to like announce to the internet yet. So I've been making videos that were mostly like plant shopping and like little plant tours and things like that, where I don't have to show myself as much. But in my last video, my last big box store plant shopping video, I realized that I can't just like keep taking you guys plant shopping and not be able to remember like any of the plant names. It turns out that pregnancy brain is like a really real thing. I'm so forgetful. The last time I tried to film a shopping video, I like couldn't remember the word anthurium, and I knew that it was getting bad. It turns out your brain significantly physically changes during pregnancy. It comes back eventually, so this isn't forever. I've been struggling to sort of keep my head on straight these past few months, but now at this point I'm just running with it. We're just taking it all in stride. So that's what's going on with me. This video, we're gonna do a bunch of like normal repottings. It's not gonna be all about my pregnancy or anything. I just wanted to announce to you guys what is happening with me these days and where I've been. In other plant news, I'm in the process of building out a dedicated plant room, which is very exciting. I can't believe I've never actually had one before. Painted it and converted it into a space just for plants, and so I'm really excited to be doing like a lot more plant stuff in there. It's not completely ready yet. I was like very focused on getting my plant room ready, and then a couple of weeks ago realized that I really need to switch gears and like build a baby nursery and do other stuff for preparing to have a kid. So I kind of put my plant projects a bit on hold. I haven't really been buying plants or doing too much plant stuff. So yeah, I am beyond excited for what is to come, for the future. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to start a family and to become a mother. The word excited doesn't even begin to encapsulate all of the emotions and the feelings that I'm having these days, but I'm just feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude for this life that I'm living and getting to share with you guys. I'm just gonna like pop out a baby and start a family, and then we will keep up with the plant videos. So I'm making it sound so easy. I'm trying to tell myself these things. And the fact that I was like keeping my pregnancy a secret has been kind of hard when I try to think about like showing up to this channel. So now I feel this sense of relief to announce to you guys what's been going on with me. I've been pregnant since we went on our trip to Europe. So I made shopping videos in Venice and Paris, and I was in my first trimester. I actually found out I was pregnant like days before we left on our vacation. This is a really, really special time for me. I've just been trying to soak it in day by day. So Really Big Plant is going to be spawning a really small plant. I'm propagating. That's what's going on. Hooray. Okay, let's get into the repotting. I do have some like plant concepts and things that I want to talk about today. I have this box that I already opened because I ordered some stuff from my kitchen and stuff that came in here that I took out, but I haven't opened the plant packages yet, so we will take a look at these things. Oh, yay, this is beautiful. I really like this. Look, it comes with the saucer. I love pots that are shaped like this. The sort of like bubble or stacked little circles. I don't know what you would call it. So I got this on Amazon. I will link all of these in the description. I think this one was $18, which I feel like is not so bad for a ceramic pot. And the glaze on it is beautiful. We will use that for one repotting. Little stickers for feet cushions, which is nice. Oh, this is so small. This is smaller than I thought it would be. That's cute. It can fit like a small plant. And it came with 3 screens. So there's 3 pots in here. Oh, these are way shorter than I thought they were gonna be. This is kind of a short pot. That's okay. All right, a 3-inch pot, a 4-inch pot, and a 6-inch pot. Very cute. Okay, so I was gonna order just 2 of these pots, but this set was like $24 or something, and this pot was like $15 or something like that. Can't remember the exact prices. I'll put them in the description. So I decided to just order the set and thought they might be slightly different colored glazes, which they are. I think I like this one a little bit more because it's a little bit of a more of a cream, a matte, like beige-ish color. This one is a little bit more like gray white. They're both nice. I like them both. Okay, and this one has a drainage hole as well. This one is like a little bit heavier and seems a little bit better made. Can't really tell the difference. And then this is the weird thing that I ordered that I'm hoping is gonna work with these pots. Okay, I really hope the color of these matches because what I did was I ordered some cat food bowls that I was hoping could work as saucers for these pots. Let's see. Ah, they're a really different color. Okay, well, what are these? Little rubber plugs. These need plugs? Oh, for the bottom, I suppose. Okay. So I was hoping that these could sit in here like this. Oh, that looks kind of cute, actually. It's okay that it's yellow. This was supposed to be like a cream color. It came with these plugs to plug up these holes. Or like to be little feet so the bottoms don't scratch things, I think. What do you guys think? Is it cute? Do we like it? These little plugs make the whole thing unstable. Take them back out. All right. I kind of like it. I feel like it matches this one's color a little bit better. I thought that this was going to be genius. I think it's okay. I want to repot this English ivy that I got in my last shopping video into one of these pots. And then I also have this little Hoya carrii, which I just got in the LA area. Just going shopping, and there was a Terrain, which is Anthropologie's houseplant store. Anthropologie, like the clothing brand. They have a very fancy little plant shop, very aesthetic. But I was surprised to see these Hoya carrii, these Hoya hearts, and it was only $18, which is maybe a lot, but also like a lot less than I've ever seen this for sale in person. So I had to get one of these. Maybe I shouldn't use the cat bowls. I can just use regular saucers underneath. What do you guys think? I'm not locked in to keeping these cat bowls, so like, let me know what you think in the comments, because I can always return them. It's not like I'm gonna drill holes in them or do anything. Maybe they're cuter without these. I thought I had a stroke of genius and ordered these, but maybe I was just having a stroke. Looks cute actually, because both of these plants have yellow in them. This was just some of the packing paper that came with the packages. I'm just gonna use that. I still don't own a repotting mat. I really should get one, considering how often I do this kind of thing. So we're gonna do this one last. If I'm doing a whole bunch of repottings, multiple repottings, and there's any plant that I have even like a tiny suspicion that there might be like pests on it, or there could be pests on it, I like to leave it to the very end so that I'm not handling it a bunch and then handling other plants. I was just touching this a bunch, so I kind of am doing a bad job of following my own protocol. But English ivy has a reputation for being a very attractive home for spider mites. And I got this a couple weeks ago, and I've been keeping it separate from all of my other plants. I've rinsed it right when I brought it back, and then have just been keeping an eye on it to see if it has spider mites. Treated it with some neem oil, and so far, so good. I have not seen any spider mites on it. I didn't see any when I brought it home, but I've just been being extra cautious. I'm still gonna keep this repotting for the very end, so I will put this aside. So this is a Hoya carrii, also known as a Hoya heart. These are often sold as just a single leaf cutting, and they can live for a long time that way. Like many of the Hoya plants can survive for quite some time as just a single leaf. When you buy these as a single leaf, they can develop into a fuller plant if there is the appropriate amount of stem attached underground. In my very last video, my plant shopping video, I was talking about how I went through a phase of buying lots of them because I was always hoping that they would turn into a full plant, but that never worked out for me. And then I found these in person, and I've never actually seen one for a price that seems relatively reasonable to me. $18 is maybe a lot for this, but at the same time, I really wanted it. I love the heart-shaped leaves, and I do love the variegation. I feel like this is really cute. I'm gonna put a little bit of this cord in, which is like a wick that you can use for a self-watering plant situation. Not because I want to keep this in a self-watering setup where I feel like I want this to have a water reservoir, but because this dish that I got for it doesn't make contact with the bottom of the pot. Unless there's a wick in there, you get standing water in the saucer. So I just want to prevent there from being like a slimy standing water situation by putting a wick through the little hole. And if I end up not using the saucer, I can always just pull the wick out. Where are my screens? I have this one, which I already cut some. I cut some out of this to use it for my other pots, which we'll talk about when I get to that repotting, but I'm just gonna use this one. I would recommend that if you do put a screen on top of a wick, you keep the wick on the inside long enough that it can emerge from around the edge of the screen so that it can more easily serve its purpose of making contact with the substrate on the inside and then taking advantage of that capillary action where like water likes to stick to itself and will pull up from the wick. I think if you put it under the screen, it might have a little bit of a harder time wicking into the soil. I think it should still work depending on the size of the holes on your screen and the type of substrate that you use. But my advice would be to make sure that your wick sticks up a little bit around the side. If it doesn't though, I think that's okay too. Handy dandy Tupperware of potting substrate that is just expanded coco coir and perlite. I do fertilize my plants, supplement with a liquid fertilizer regularly, and then I usually add in some Osmocote, which is like a delayed release fertilizer granule, those little circles that when you buy a new plant, a lot of times you see those little like green balls or like yellow plasticky balls in the substrate, and those are delayed release fertilizer granules. So I do put that in with my plants as well. This mix is about 50-50 coco coir to perlite. I just eyeball it, put it in here and shake it all up. I love this plant because it's got these really beautiful heart-shaped leaves. The botanical term for this leaf shape is obcordate. So a cordate leaf is a heart-shaped leaf. Cordate, that cord root, is the same as in like philodendron cordatum, which has a heart leaf, or like the name cora, which means heart. So these leaves are called obcordate because they are reverse cordate. So normally in botany, a cordate leaf is a heart-shaped leaf where the stem, the petiole of the leaf, comes from the sinus. The sinus is the part where the heart like butt crack is. I don't know what you call it. It's the place where the two lobes join. And normally that's where the stem comes from on a cordate leaf, like on a philodendron hederaceum. These are called obcordate because the petiole, the leaf stem, attaches from the bottom of the heart, the pointy part of the heart. So the prefix ob means lots of different things in the way that it gets used in English and other Romance languages. It can mean like towards, with, against, reverse. It sort of is like a little prefix that adds a bit of emphasis to whatever the word is that comes afterwards. But in botany, ob almost always means the opposite or like reverse. So obcordate means reverse cordate. Like Hoya obovata, for example, there are ovate leaves, which means that they're shaped like an oval, kind of like an egg. And usually ovate leaves have the stem coming from like the bottom part of the egg where it's wider, but obovate, like obovata, means that it's reverse ovate, where the little stem comes from the top end of the egg shape. And so it's like a reverse ovate leaf. So yeah, in botany, ob almost always means reverse or opposite. So I love these obcordate leaves that we have on here. Just gonna squish this around a little. I do see a little root sticking out from the bottom down here. So I'm gonna just kind of tip this out of the pot. Wow, this looks healthy. These roots look really nice. I wasn't sure how well rooted this was going to be, but there's a nice little root system down there. And the soil doesn't really seem too compacted or anything like that. So I'm gonna mostly just leave this alone because this substrate looks very similar to what I'm using. So I don't think I need to like disturb it too much. You can just go ahead and stick this in here. I'm gonna put some more of mine in this pot to get up against the walls to make it easier to backfill. Yay, I feel like so happy to be doing a repotting with you guys. I feel like it's been a little while since I've done this. The last repotting video I did, I was pregnant and I was all like concerned that you could see, but somehow it hadn't hit me that I was gonna get so much bigger and you would definitely be able to tell. All right, let's put this in here. With this shaped pot, I like to tap the sides a little bit when the pots have these kind of ridges, because sometimes when you just do a normal backfill, you don't get soil in all of the different little holes that are in the pot. So just tapping it all around can help a little bit. Okay, I feel like that's super cute. Now let me see, do I want to use the the cat food bowl, or no? It's cute, right? The yellow like matches the yellow on the plant. Does it look silly? Anyway, okay, so much better than just the plain nursery pot. Although for some reason when I have them sitting like that, it doesn't really bother me. I was talking to somebody in a plant store and they were talking about how it's so important to them to buy pots for all of their plants, otherwise they don't like them. And I feel like I don't really have that like mental itch where I feel like I need to get the plant into a nicer looking pot. But as I've been doing more shopping these days for home type stuff, to look for like baby furniture and things, and was going to like all the high-end like Pottery Barn and Crate and Barrel and stuff, and I look at their plant displays and they have them in such beautiful pots. They just look stunning. It doesn't even matter what kind of plant it is. When you have it in an amazing pot, it looks so nice. I'm saying this like it's like a revelation, but it kind of was for me. I'm like, I need to get my plants like looking nicer. When you put them in a really nice pot, it just elevates them so much. So you guys are probably sitting here like, duh, but I feel like I want to get my plants looking more aesthetic. That's never really been like a focus for me with my plant collecting and with my plant care, but I'm feeling more and more like I want to get into making my plants look really nice. But the pots are way more expensive than the plants, which is crazy. So anyway, maybe like fewer expensive plants and more nicer decorations, more nice pots for them is maybe the direction I'm heading in. Although we'll see, because the plant room that I'm building out is going to be crazy. It's going to have all the crazy jungle vibes. So we shall see. Okay, I love this. I feel like it looks really cute. Hooray. Now let's do the repotting that I'm like the most excited about, and that is to use this pot here, this triple pot that I found on Amazon. It's resin, actually. It looks like ceramic, but it's very thick, very heavy, like resin or some type of plastic. And in here, we are going to repot 3 lithops plants, and we're going to talk a little bit about lithops and their growth cycle and their care requirements. Lithops is a genus in the family of plants known as ice plants. They are called ice plants because of the way that some of them have these epidermal cells that look sort of like ice crystals, and also the way that the plants have these essentially translucent areas that kind of look like blocks of ice. It's a bit of a misnomer because when you think of ice plants, you obviously think of somewhere cold, or at least I do, but pretty much all of the ice plants are native to like very hot environments. So lithops species in particular are native to southern Africa, and they are also called like camouflage plants, stone plants. They live in rocky areas and they survive by disguising themselves as rocks. That's why they look so strange. They deal with very hot, very dry environments by having these specific morphological characteristics. A lot of the plant mass is actually underground, and they have these tops that have a leaf window, also called a fenestration, which is different than a type of fenestration that's a hole, but fenestration just means window. And these have these translucent cells. They keep their chlorophylls on the inside and then use these windows to allow light in so that they can bounce light around on the inside and use that for their photosynthetic process. So lithops are really interesting. They are a pair of fused leaves that are fused together, and there's like barely any stem and it's way underground. And the way that they reproduce is that they kind of like give birth to a new plant. The new plant, baby plant, grows inside, and then eventually the 2 leaves split apart and a new plant replaces them and usually absorbs all of the water from the parent plant. And then these leaves shrivel up and go away entirely, and a new plant replaces them that grows up out of the middle. The way that they get identified typically is by looking at the overall shape of the plant in profile. So whether they're shaped more like a heart, where they sort of come up like this, or if they have a flat surface. And then another feature is how deep the fissure is in between the leaves. Some species of lithops will have a very deep fissure and make more of a heart shape, and other varieties have a very shallow fissure. Then the patterns that form on the surface where the leaf windows are is also one of the ways that they get identified. The coloration that forms on the outer margin, the inner margin, as well as this inner space here, which can be called the lake, or sometimes they have channels instead of lakes. And then there's like clusters of dots on the inside, which get called islands or dots if they're actually dots. Sometimes there's red dots. Sometimes there's all of these different things happening. Sometimes they're described as having wide lakes or smaller lakes with long islands. And then there's like these little parts that jet in from the margin that get called peninsulas. So there's a whole spectrum of terminology that refers to the way that we identify lithops, as well as morphological characteristics of the flower, like the color. Interestingly, the color of the plant itself is usually not necessarily one of the distinguishing features, because the same species can occur in multiple types of colors, and they are very much influenced by the environment that they grow in. There are so many varieties that I'm actually not sure which ones these are. I believe these are all the same species called the Ocampiae. I think that's what it's called. But I'm not completely sure. I was down a rabbit hole trying to figure out how to identify these because they don't have species names on them, and this is one of those things where I think I haven't seen enough variety of lithops to be able to identify these for sure. When I looked at so many pictures of lithops, I started to feel less and less sure of the ID. Let's talk about lithops care a little bit. So because they are from areas that are very hot and dry, one of the interesting things about lithops is that the majority of lithops have a summer dormancy period, which means that you should not water them during the peak of the heat or in the summer or when it's really, really hot, which is kind of counterintuitive because for most houseplants, that's when you want to be giving them the most water. That's considered the growing season, like for like philodendrons and like ivy. I'm just like looking at the other plants I've got here. When it's hot and when there's the most sun, that's when they're going to need the most waterings, the most frequent waterings, because they're drying out and they're in the growing season and that's their growing period. But for lithops, the summer season is when they actually go into dormancy because they need to conserve water during that time, because that's usually when the drought hits them. They do most of their growing in the autumn through the winter. That's when they flower and that's when they will split. And that's when they should be getting watered when the soil dries out. But in the summertime, when it's very hot, they actually shouldn't be watered. So lithops have very irregular watering schedules. I definitely would never water a lithops when the soil still has any moisture at all. So I've had these little lithops for probably over a year now. This one actually split, and I'm sorry I didn't document it, but this one actually split and grew a new plant, which was very exciting. And then this one had two plants in the pot from the time that I bought it, and one of them did flower this fall, and I will show you a picture of the flower. I think this flower is probably ready to just completely come out. It's all shriveled up at this point. Well, it's not coming right out on its own, so I'm not going to force it. I'll just leave it on there. But yeah, after they flower, they split and grow a new plant. So we are going to take these 3 lithops and pot them up into here. Lithops usually grow very long tap roots. One of the ways that they survive the heat is by putting parts of their plant way down into the rocky soil where they can stay a little bit cooler. And then the top part of the plant will shrivel up and sometimes disappear entirely beneath the surface and look like they died. Usually in little pots like this, that doesn't happen because they don't have this infrastructure down below to like keep themselves alive after a drought. So this is maybe not the ideal pot because only one of them is kind of deep, but that's okay. I'm gonna use it anyway because these have been surviving in this situation in like regular houseplant potting substrate. So I'm gonna transfer them into a slightly grittier mix that just has more perlite and put some rocks in the bottom of the pot and also on the top to just like make it look nicer. I ordered this pot on Amazon. I drilled holes in the bottom of this pot last night in 2 out of the 3 planters. I was planning on drilling holes in all of them, but this tall one is actually solid plastic up until about like this level of the pot. So I didn't want to have to drill through so much depth. And also they are all interconnected on the inside, and the tallest one kind of drains into the shortest pot. So I think it should be okay in terms of draining that I only put holes in these two pots. I did already cut some little screens that I put in there over the holes, so this is pretty much ready to go. I have some horticultural sand, which is basically like small gravel. And then I already took out a scoop of some perlite that I'm gonna use to amend my normal potting mix. I'm gonna use mostly perlite, but because they are already potted in what I believe is like some sort of peat or like cocoa coir type mixture, I'm going to use some of that as well. I got these spoons, which are like meant for eating, but they look like little shovels. They're so cute. I got these on Amazon. There's like pointy ones as well as this square shaped one, but I'm gonna use one for helping with this repotting because I think they're so cute and it's appropriate for plants. So yeah, this is the horticultural sand. See how it's basically like gravel? And yeah, it's draining from the big pot right into the smaller ones. Since it's all kind of falling down into this lowest pot, I don't want to fill it too much, fill the other ones too much, because this is the shallowest one. I think also what that means is I need to start with the shallowest one so that I can pot into the bigger one without everything just falling inside. So I think what we're gonna do is this biggest one in the bottom, and then the pear here, and then the green one on top. How does that look? I think that'll be cute. Also gonna do a scoop of perlite down there, a couple little scoops of perlite, and some of my peat amended with extra perlite. Wow, this has a big root system actually. There's like very thin roots spiraling around and around. Okay, got one in. I'm gonna put them all in the soil and then we will clean them up and add the rock layer at the end. Lithops are usually grown from seed because the only way to propagate them is through division when they form two plants like this, but a lot of times they don't actually form multiple plants. They will just continue to split. I got these from Home Depot, I believe, like a little over a year ago, and these are from the brand Altman plants. See how beautiful this is? You can see the green part of the plant, how much greener it is down below the soil, and that this is two plants that I could theoretically divide right now, but I don't want to. I'm gonna keep them together. They might be happier with a little bit more room in the pot if I separated them, but I don't want to split them. Let's get more perlite down there. It's a mostly perlite mix that I'm putting down at the bottom. Okay, I feel like that was actually quite difficult to get in there. Then we'll do the last one. Wow, I just love the way these look once you get them unpotted. You can see how much bigger of a plant it is actually. It's not just these leaves at the surface, but this entire huge succulent that just lives below ground. And you can also see why these are very susceptible to rot, because they actually are a big chunky succulent. They just hide the majority of their mass underground. And so if the substrate is soggy or stays wet for too long, they are very susceptible to rotting. I'm finding that the shape of these pots is making the repotting quite difficult. So for this last one, I'm gonna try to make it a little easier and tip the pot sideways to try to fill at least one of the sides a little bit before I get the plant in. Okay, that little repotting took way longer than I thought it would. That was almost like 40 minutes. It's like more than half an hour of trying to get the soil in. I put this little piece of paper over this set of double plants because I didn't want too much stuff to keep falling down in between them. And then what I'm gonna do is I've got these paintbrushes here. Paintbrushes are great for cleaning up succulents after repotting, or any type of plant, but especially the little small guys. Perfect. Now I'm gonna add the rocks on the top, just to give it more of like a desert look. I don't think it's actually necessary. I didn't end up mixing in a lot of rocks with the potting soil, just because I figured I could just do like a ton of perlite and that would be okay too. Perlite is definitely more water retentive than gravel because it does have some porosity to it, so it does retain a little bit of water, but I think it should be okay, especially because they were already in like a peat type of substrate, which is very water retentive, and they've been doing okay. I've been keeping them in a really bright window, and they seem to be just fine as long as they dry out between waterings. I'm gonna put my little piece of paper back on this one because I just cleaned them up. And then fill in around the edges. Okay, so I feel like this is beautiful. I ordered a jewelry tray to go underneath this, but it ended up being way too small. So I'm returning it, and I just pulled out this other little tray that I have instead that I think actually is a better color match than the thing I ordered anyway. I don't love the way that this looks, but I don't want my counter to get wet from the little holes that I have on here, on the bottom of here, so let's try this. Brain blast, look at how that looks. That's way better, right? Can you see the writing on there? No. Oh, I feel like it's super cute putting the tray upside down. Okay. Solution. Looks great. Okay, now it's like on the little platform. Now this looks like something that could be like in like Star Trek, like in Picard's ready room. A little weird, a little weird plant. So yeah, I love this. I feel like this is really cute now. And it actually, I like it on this tray. It's a really good color match. This looks great. I'm really excited about this. I feel like it looks amazing. I want to order another one of these pots and put something different in here because I feel like a little leafy situation in this pot would also look really cute. It was like 20 something on Amazon, I believe. I think it might have been like 22 bucks, which I don't know, take it as you will. I don't really like spending money on pots, but something came over me and I wanted to buy a bunch of them. So I love this. I feel like it looks great. I'm very excited for it. And yeah, now hopefully these will be okay. I'm not gonna water them anytime soon. This one with the flower is starting to split. You're not supposed to repot them when they're splitting, but I'm hoping that I didn't do too much damage to the little plant and that it should be okay after this treatment. So hooray, it looks even better than I had anticipated. When I start doing this kind of thing, it makes me really want to like step up my game and get all of my plants looking really nice. We've got 2 more repottings to go. I'm gonna use this pot and saucer combo, which I think are beautiful. And I'm gonna repot this Thaumatophyllum Xanadu. I'm in a habit of calling these thaumatophyllums. They were reclassified like well over a year ago back into philodendron. These tree philodendrons keep getting reclassified. First they were meconostigma, and then they were philodendron, and then they're thaumatophyllum, and now they're philodendrons again, based on evolving methods of like genetic testing as opposed to previous forms of identification, which had more to do with morphological characteristics, flowers, and their ability to be crossbred between other plant species. But as we've gotten better at doing DNA sequencing and are building out more and more of a database every day that goes by of plant genetic sequences, we are able to trace more the like evolutionary history and the actual relationship between different plants. And then of course, classification is not like inherent to any living thing. This is a way that we catalog stuff. And so there's always going to be disagreement on what is important in terms of what makes something belong to one category versus another, which is why there's often a lot of dispute between experts on what factors actually go into determining whether something is one species or one genus or another. And a lot of times these lines are very blurred. Things are kind of on a spectrum. And so it's hard to decide where to draw the line and say, okay, once you have this amount of this characteristic difference, then you are now definitively being called something else. You know, it's not always so night and day. These thaumatophyllums or philodendrons often get called tree philodendrons, and you can kind of see on this plant why that is. They grow these trunks, and it's one of my favorite things about them. Like, I absolutely love these types of plants. And this one is kind of dinky looking. I've had it in a pretty low light situation, and I don't know about you guys, but there's always plants that are like not exactly sacrificial ones, but the ones that I overlook when I do my watering. And if I'm like just running out of water and don't feel like filling up my watering can again, there's certain plants that I'll skip, and this happens to be one of them. And it's really sparse for that reason. But one of the things that I do like about the tree philodendrons is that I really like them when they look like this, like very sparse, and then you can see the trunk. I think that they're just so whimsical looking. I love the effect. And this one has split into, I think, 3 different plants that are all connected onto the same base. And I just really like the way this looks. I got this from the grocery store for $5 like ages ago. And I have it in this nursery pot inside of this cover pot. But I thought it would be really nice to just give it its own little setup. And when I saw this pot, for some reason I instantly thought of this plant because of the way that the trunk has this like brown coloration. I thought it would look really striking in here. I also want to put a wick in because this doesn't quite reach the bottom of the saucer. Then you get standing water that turns slimy. But if you put a little wick in that goes down to the bottom, that water gets sucked back up into the plant. Does this even fit? Yeah, this is fine. It's not really like a size up, but it is gonna have more space in there. I like keeping these small. If I gave this a bigger pot, it would get bigger faster. The leaves are still kind of in their immature form. I'm gonna pot it in there and then I'm gonna clean it up a little bit. It's got some stuff that can be picked away, and I think maybe some of these leaves can be trimmed off, although I guess this isn't so bad. This is just from dehydration that it's got the little brown edges. One of the coolest things about epiphytic plants like philodendrons or semi or hemi-epiphytic plants, which means partially epiphytic. First of all, epiphytic means that they are able to grow outside of soil, like up the side of a tree or up against something, as opposed to having to always grow terrestrially, where the roots are buried in dirt or in the ground. And one of the coolest things about these epiphytic plants or semi-epiphytic plants is the morphological diversity of roots on the same plant. Essentially, the environmental conditions that they develop in really influence and change the way that the roots grow and the way that they look and what their actual physical properties are in terms of how they're able to serve the plant and what they look like. You can see that there are these huge roots on here that are sticking out of the side of the plant. They look kind of like barky, they're very hard, and they serve as support structures for the plant to hold it up. It's one of the reasons why this gets called a tree philodendron. Sometimes they get called stilt root philodendrons because they have these roots that turn into something that's sort of akin to like tree branches that brace the plant in the ground. But roots that have the same origin, just coming from the stem of the plant, can also look like this, like the little white worms, the kind of roots that we're used to seeing underground. And they are very different. They're not barky. They have like little hairs on them and they have a totally different texture. And they're able to absorb water all along the surface of the root, similar to the difference between like water roots and soil roots. Roots develop differently depending on the substrate that they're grown in. So water roots will develop more areas that allow them to have a different type of relationship with oxygen exchange so that they can take up oxygen molecules from water more effectively than they would if they are just in soil where they have actual access to like dry air when the soil dries out. Similarly, these roots are used to being moist, so they've adapted to the moisture versus the roots that grow out in the exposed air. They turn very hard and form more of a structural purpose for the plants until they descend into the soil. One of the things about thematophyllums, or this type of philodendron, that I've noticed is very different than other philodendron types that are not like the tree philodendrons, the soil roots are very brittle and they're much less forgiving than on, say, like a philodendron heteroecium or something like that, where the roots are very soft. You can kind of bunch them up and squish them around and they don't really care so much. But these roots, if you bend them in too extreme of a way, they snap. So that's just one thing to keep in mind with this type of plant when you're doing a repotting. I mean, it's okay if you snap some roots, they grow new ones, but they are definitely more brittle. And it does look like I've got some root rot in here, or maybe not root rot, but dead roots from underwatering, because if you underwater a plant too many times, the roots will shrivel up and die, and then they'll leave behind like a structure of a root system, but won't be active roots. That's what these really floppy, kind of brown, sad looking ones are. I'm just gonna rip some of this off because these aren't doing anything. This is why underwatering as well as overwatering can both lead to root rot, because when you underwater, the roots can die off. And if the right pathogens are present or the wrong pathogens are present, you can develop an actual root rot situation where the rotten roots are causing like a bad smell that you can detect and actually harm the plant, which is a different situation than just having like dead roots attached to the bottom, which is what I think I have going on in here, where they're not actually growing harmful bacteria or anything like that. They're just like there. These are the like dead roots. And then this is what the healthy roots look like. They have all of this bright white color and they clearly look very different than this kind of soggy, sad situation over here. just gonna clean this up a little bit. Pull off some of this dead stuff. All right. I feel like that's beautiful in there, and I got a chance to kind of straighten it out a little bit because it was leaning way over. Although, to be honest, I like the way that these look when they kind of like get all wonky and lean to the side. But yeah, and then it's got the tray that it fits perfectly in. I feel like this looks great. It looks better in here than it did before, and I do feel very satisfied giving it a more permanent home. One of the things that did just occur to me after talking about the brittleness of the roots of this type of plant and looking at this shape of pot, it will probably be pretty hard to get it out of here eventually without doing some damage to the roots, but that's okay. We'll face that when we get there eventually someday. So yeah, hooray, this looks great. Very excited for this plant. Hooray! And then this is our last repotting. This is the Heterohelix. I believe the cultivar name is Yellow Ripple, and it's just a beautiful little ivy. For some reason, last time I was plant shopping, I just loved this, and I continue to really like it. It is growing some new little leaves, and I did have like a couple of leaves die off down from the inside, which is pretty normal, right, when you bring a new plant home. Care for ivy is that you want to let the soil dry lightly between waterings, although they're not super picky, and they can be kind of like nutrient starved. They grow very well in urban environments, which is why you see ivy like coating buildings. Fun fact, the Ivy League, like schools in the United States, are called the Ivy League because of the way ivy historically covers the buildings and gives them that very sort of sophisticated look. So anyway, ivy can form all sorts of different types of roots, like very sticky ones, and grow into the little cracks in between bricks on buildings, and it also grows very well as like a ground cover or in the ground. It does appreciate high humidity, which is one of the reasons why when it doesn't have high humidity, it can get a lot of spider mites. The plants that like high humidity and then live in less than ideal environments do tend to be more susceptible to spider mites than plants that are okay with drier environments. One of the things that makes a plant especially susceptible to spider mites is having a very thin cuticle. The cuticle is like the waxy layer that coats plant leaves, and generally the thinner a plant leaf is, the thinner the cuticle is on the leaf, and it makes it easier for spider mites and like tiny pests to eat them. I'm gonna just repot it into here. We're gonna also put the wick in, which I might decide to take out later if I change my mind about the saucer. Wick plus screen. Massage the pot to loosen it all up. Little tiny ivy. So ivy plants, they're all individual vines. So it's not like one big plant connected in the bottom. So when you repot it, it might change structure a lot, and that's normal. This is kind of sticking in the pot. Ivy roots do this thing, which is one of the things that allows them to grow so well up the sides of buildings. Their roots have these very sticky root hairs that produce something it's almost like a little glue that allows them to grow up the sides of things that are not necessarily like moist or give them anything to really hold on to. Really doesn't want to come out of this pot. See how it's kind of just coming apart? This is not as well rooted as I thought it would be. That's okay. Yay, okay, I feel like it's so cute in there. Let's try it in the cat food bowl. Cute or no? Do I need to just give it a regular saucer? Let me see, I'm gonna clean this up and then we'll take another look without this huge pile of dirt in the way. What do we think? I'll pull this, my sweater, so it's not green on green. Let me know what you guys think about this yellow cat food bowl underneath and if it works with this plant or if I should just get a different saucer. This has been a really fun video to make. I'm really happy with these repottings. This one is definitely the star of the show for me, the little lithops trio. I love the pot. I think I said that already, but I really like the way that this looks. I'm probably gonna order another one. It came in like a couple different colors, all like kind of natural stone looking colors, but there was one that had like a brown and white. I think they called it like travertine, but it doesn't really look like travertine, but it was also an option that I was debating, so I feel like that would be cute too. So yeah, I love these repottings. I feel like they're very aesthetic. I don't always end up with like really nice looking plant pot situations at the end of a repotting day, so I feel very happy and satisfied with this combo, and yeah, really excited to get to finally announce to you about what's going on with me and the entire human that I'm growing. Happy to be back doing some repottings with you guys because I feel like it has been a hot minute since I've sat here and just like touched a bunch of dirt. So I've only done like one repotting or maybe two off camera since the last time I repotted any plants, which was like a couple months ago. I had some spider plant babies break off of my other plant, so I repotted those when I noticed them on the ground, but I haven't really done any repottings, so I forgot how much I love just like getting my hands in dirt. I didn't forget, I've been doing other stuff, and I love an opportunity to just chat with you guys about some plant things. So yeah, this has been really fun for me. I would love to hear from you on what types of plants you've been repotting recently, or if there are any like really beautiful plant pots you've gotten. I would love to know what you recommend. I hope that this was an enjoyable video for you guys, and yeah, I hope that whatever's going on in your life is exciting and hopefully not too stressful. Can't wait to show you guys the plant room that I've been working on. I think that you're gonna like it. It's gonna be very green and luscious. Maybe I'll like go live. I've been kind of toying with that idea because then I don't have to do any editing, which is like the main barrier in my video production process, because I'm always down to just like get on camera and talk about plants. It's the editing that really kind of gives me a hard time. So maybe we'll start going live and then we can all like chat together. I've never done that, but I'd imagine it's not too difficult to like stream on YouTube, so maybe I'll look into that. Thank you so much for joining me and for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. It was really fun for me to make. I love getting my hands just like in the dirt, making a mess in my kitchen. It's really fun to do some repottings together. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you are having a fantastic planting week and month, and I hope that your plants are bringing you joy, and I hope to catch you in the next one.